Welcome to the second section of this course. In the previous section, we created our first application based on Entity Framework Core. We added a DB context and used that to create and populate a database. However, the technique we used to instantiate and populate the database is not the best there is. In this section, we will explore the correct way to work with creating and updating the structure of the database. Migrations. Let's have a little preview for what's to come. We will begin this section by examining migrations in theory. You want to know as much as possible about them before we're going to go deeper into how they work. Next, based on the project we created in the previous section, we will create a database using migrations this time. We will execute those migrations using the Package Manager console. Moving on, we will look into how we can update an existing table with migrations. And of course, how we can roll back those migrations and return to a previous state. We will end this section with a quick introduction to an alternative way of working with migrations using the CLI instead of the Package Manager console. This video will serve as a purely theoretical introduction to migrations. So in this video, you're going to learn what migrations are and why we need them. Let's review what we did in the previous section in order to initialize the database and populate it with some fake data. We used the ensureCreated method to create a database. That is inefficient. Let's see why. In the previous section, if we wanted, for example, to add a phone number field to the to-dos table, we would have to drop the database, change the model, and then rerun the application so that the new model can take effect and be converted into a database by EF Core. That's not convenient at all. Also consider what happens with your production database. You can't keep dropping it every time you need to add a single field or table. The only viable alternative would be to make changes manually to the production database using SQL commands. But manual changes to the production or even to the development database break the single source of truth principle, according to which you must have one single point in your application that has to change every time you want to add a new feature or remove something. For an Entity Framework project, that point is the models directory, the directory where we stored the contact model and the to-do model in the previous section. If you manually update the database using SQL commands, you have to manually update the models too. That's 2 points of change. If one of them fails for whatever reason, your application stops being in sync with your database. And that's something really bad. It's a very common source of bugs. It's something that you simply do not want to happen with your application. Migrations provide the answer we've been looking for so far in this video. Let's see what they are and what their benefits are. Migrations are essentially just files generated by Entity Framework Core. EF Core reads your models and your database context and creates files that, when executed by EF Core, of course, will update the database to match your models. Which of course means that they help keep the database in sync and they follow the single source of truth principle we talked about in a previous slide. They allow you to make changes to the database structure without losing data. You can even cancel a change, a migration, and revert back to a previous state. And they can also act as a version control for your database structure. That way, you can be certain that all members of your team work on the same database structure.